It's Wednesday, March 4th, 2020, 6:04 PM, calling the Lakeville Board of Health meeting to order. Is there anyone recording this other than the Lakeville Board of Health and LakeCAM? I see no one for the record. First on the agenda, 5 Barberry Street, meet with Outback Engineering to discuss local upgrade requests.
Hey, you?
Yes.
Come on up.
Just state your name for the record.
Bob Mullins.
And are you the owner or representing
I'm just kind of representing the owner, I guess.
the owner?
Yes.
We'd be installing the system?
No, Mike Wilson will. Reliable.
Yep, reliable doing it. Okay. We only had a couple comments from Edward on it. Was just the water line location. We're wondering if instead of, it says sleeve it in concrete, if they could just come in the side instead of sleeving it. Do you know what the inside looks like? Is it a crawl space? Is it dirt? Is it? What
It's
is
pretty
this?
much, yeah, it really
Is there a
is.
basement? I mean, is there not a
There's
spot?
not too much of a basement. It's really just, there is a bulkhead. And you can kind of come down the stairs and the invert's going out right there. And you can get at it. But the rest of it is just backfilled dirt slab.
So that's the only spot you can get to in the basement, is just you go down these stairs. I've been in some of them in there, and I think I know what
Exactly.
you're talking about. It's basically
Yeah.
a dug hole in the ground, and that's as far as you get.
Yes, and that's pretty much it.
And then the
It's
rest is just dirt,
Yes.
It's a
Wait.
slab?
Yes.
and they just dug a little hole in the
I
back
didn't think any
corner.
of them were slabs. I thought they were like either up on
So yeah, it's not a full
sauna
basement. So what
tubes
we
or...
But
wondering
that's
if I could
probably
do-
even dirt in the rest of the basement, or is it actually
I'm pretty sure,
concrete?
Derek.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the reason why you don't think they could get to here, because there's no wall to actually tie it to this room?
Yeah, I don't really think you'd get the pipe to go all the way over and out this end. Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they would. Instead of digging it all up, you have to expose it all anyway, then put concrete on it.
Exactly. Yeah. that's
It would
gonna
make
be a
more
pain.
sense just to turn and go here, and then just reconnect it. But we were assuming that,
So you're thinking redo the water line? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
yeah,
okay.
I wouldn't, you don't have to go all the way back to the street. I don't know, is this one of the newer ones they just put in, so it's brand new plastic?
I think so.
It must be on the new system?
Yeah.
Well, the
Yeah.
other thing too is shifting the system at all.
We're pretty tight. I mean, we're like
It's got
10
this
feet
well
here, 25
Right here,
there.
so any shift, you're gonna affect 75,
But he's got 18 feet to play with the one on the left, right?
118 here.
So he's got, couldn't he shift it?
But I don't think it'll get away. So you're saying turn it this way, well, you're gonna get closer to 10 and need a variance up top. It would actually probably bring the system back a little. And you're just at minimum to the 20 in the crawl.
I mean, I don't really have a problem with it, but I'd like to know if they really can't relocate the water line or not, 'cause if they could, I think it should be.
Yeah.
I mean, that was,
Yeah, and if somebody was here that knew the answers for these things.
Well, I was there for the perk, Bob, and you
Yeah.
know, you just went down this bulkhead, and then it was right there. It was just dirt. Really is unlikely that you're going to get anyone in there to.
yeah, you'd have to
Squeeze
tunnel
over.
across the,
Right.
and try to dig if it wasn't, I mean, they do allow you to encase it
Yeah, I don't
in,
care.
in Title V.
Yeah,
It's,
I mean, if you can't, you
it-
can't. I just, you know,
but I mean, like you said, you're gonna have to dig it up and expose the whole thing anyway.
Yeah, I know. Which
Yeah,
is a
you-
pain in itself,
it'd be
right?
easier and cheaper just to come on the side if you could, but.
That's what,
Okay.
but if
Well,
you
I mean, I
can't-
don't mind trying to approach it that way,
yeah,
and to be determined, so to speak, I guess, if that's all right.
right.
It's not
Right.
like there's a lot of options,
Right.
so and you're right, that would be preferable, especially if it's poly.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it must be brand new poly, cause all these were just redone. So this is
Yeah.
on year round, the new year round water?
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, that's all new. They only, what, year year and a half at the most or something, so that'll be easy to tie it into.
Yeah, and he might have even talked about they did it in the fall or something,
Yeah.
when I was talking to George.
Now, did they always have seasonal water, or was there a well on this property before they tied in?
I don't have that answer.
Have they?
You know what? He owns a couple of budding lots, I think. Well, maybe it is just this one combined now, because I think he owns 3. He's 5. So this, I guess it's all been combined. But,
To make a bigger lot?
which makes it for a bigger lot, but, so I'm thinking that he had a well at some point.
The well that's within 75 feet,
Yep.
I talked to Outback, and they said they did try to notify that abutter, but it came back as, undeliverable.
Okay,
So
but
that-
it was mailed, do we have the card for that?
They were supposed to bring it in.
Do you have the
I don't
Water.
have that.
card?
I don't.
But they said they did,
They said they sent out the certified mail, came back undeliverable, and that they would bring that to the meeting.
Okay.
Apparently they did.
so we'll definitely have to have that.
Oh, we
to-
have to have that, anything we do will have to be subject to that.
That card,
Yeah,
being
because if not,
shown.
this whole vote wouldn't even be legal if we don't have that.
okay.
So we can make it subject to them getting it to us, but if they don't get it to us and they have to notify the people, we'll have to
You'll have to
come and vote it again after the time comes up.
Okay. Is there anyone here to discuss this project? See
I
anyone?
don't think so.
Did you have any other comments on it?
No, just what Bob said, that
Was
they do need the abutter.
the notification
They
and,
told me they would bring it, they did, so.
Yeah.
if possible, relocate the water line instead of concreting it to
Yeah,
10
could-
feet, if possible. You can just put a 3-piece connector if it's brand new plastic.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
And-
that'd be easy enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'd be cheaper too than digging it all up and putting concrete over the whole thing, so.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but if you can, I ain't saying dig up the whole basement with shovels and buckets, just if you can do it, if not, then I'm fine with just doing it as it's proposed.
Okay,
Are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. If, like you said, I know what some of them are, and
Yeah.
it would be a almost impossible nightmare if someone to get in there with a shovel and try to dig across
Mhm.
that basement to get to this wall 4 feet down
yeah,
Yeah.
to get a pipe in.
Oh, no.
yeah.
But
he
if
wa-
it's open, you can see the wall,
Exactly,
and it's right there.
and that makes all the sense in the world, because like we all know, it's easier
Yeah,
than encasing that.
yeah, you want to
concrete.
get a cement
Yeah.
truck, you don't have to
All right,
find the pipe
dig
there and
carefully.
put it
Yeah.
in.
Okay,
You know?
and if Tom says he has the green card from the return, then I'll get that in here tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Okay.
And if he doesn't, we're gonna have to put you back on another agenda, cause
Okay.
they gotta be
You have to
notified.
notify the abutter, and it's affecting
Okay.
their well, so.
Well, I think we all know, Tom probably wouldn't have said that if he didn't have it. So I'm figuring he must have it. But I understand if he doesn't for some reason, back to square one.
Okay.
You good with that one, Bob?
How many variances are on this one?
2.
Two local upgrades.
I'll make a motion that we approve the 2 local upgrades. I'm gonna get blind. Reduction of setback between the proposed septic tank and field and existing water supply line from 10 to 3. If necessary, we'll leave that up to their determination, and then, the second one, reduction of the setback, that's the one, to the private water well supply, to 100 to 75, that's to the well,
That's
to the well.
That's the neighbor's well.
And
That
the
was
entire
notified.
motion is subject to us getting that card, to us, and it was dated before today's meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great.
Alright.
Thanks
Thanks.
very much, guys.
Good luck.
Get you the Braille plans next time, bud.
With that help?
See you later.
Yeah. Okay. Next on the agenda, 310 Kenneth Welch Drive, Northeast Alternatives. Review and comment on Board of Appeals petition. This is another one going in front of the ZBA for approval. Is this, I believe it's another growery?
Yeah, going inside the same building
Yeah.
as.
Is there anyone here about the 310 Kenneth Welch Drive from Northeast Alternatives? I see no one. Edward, do you have any input on this one? Did you talk to anyone on them, or is it just a letter that going to the ZBA and?
I just talked to, the engineer Zenith, about the tight tank in the past, and they had told me that there were no new tight tanks being proposed. And knowing that it's a grow facility, normally, most grow facilities have a reverse osmosis where they discharge the extract to a tight tank. So if they do plan to have a tight tank, we need to see that in advance. I think in the past, at the neighbor, they did install it, they didn't go through the proper process. So we'd like to make sure that these Northeast Alternative does go through the proper process. In the past, the previous grower put it on the landlord to do the work, and he did not do that work, and we have to let them know that it's their responsibility, if they're gonna get the approvals and everything, that work has to be done, and tight tanks have to be shown for that,
And approved.
and approved for us, yes.
Okay. Was there gonna be a kitchen in this, or did it not show it in the plans? Is it just a growery as now proposed?
As right now, it's just a grower.
Yeah, the only other thing, if they don't have a tight tank, there might be, one of the newer proposed ones, I think it was all a self-contained system where they were reusing everything, so they didn't have to have the newer one that's up on,
Bountiful Farms?
no, the one up on 44.
Oh, that one?
I think
Okay.
they were trying to be self-contained. I mean, it would have to be one or the other, though, to see something.
Yeah.
Right.
And the only other issue I would be having with it is just to also make sure the smell is addressed. We've done the inspection at the one in this building at the opposite end of the building, and
Yeah.
there was some smell coming from that one already at 40% capacity. They hadn't even finished the other 4 grow rooms, and they only had 3 of the grow rooms.
You could smell it outside.
You could smell it outside. We did an inspection inside. They just put
We addressed some of that when the initial regs went on for that it had to have certain filters
Correct.
and all that kind of stuff. I guess we should make sure it's all there.
We clarified, and that was one of the questions we all had, because, noisome complaints, that's what we gotta
Yeah.
deal with, and if it's
Right.
people that complain of smells.
And that was something we added in about those, because the first guy told us it was filtering and different kind of stuff they could do.
That's
and
in
you
the
wouldn't
same
smell it
building now. The
outside.
first
Yeah.
guy is the one in the same building, the brewery.
Yeah, but you're
Okay.
already smelling his.
Right, so we did a walkthrough and they're trying to address it.
Mhm.
They do have a full filter system in the building,
Yeah.
in all the grow rooms, in the drying rooms that go up through the ceiling. But they do have 3 vents that come out the front of the building, directly from the kitchen and the laboratory, I believe, are the 2 vented right out towards the street that don't go up into the system. So they were looking into that to see,
Some kind of charcoal filter on them or something.
yeah, to see if they were filtered, and our comment was, maybe on this one, it's probably not the best idea to vent them right towards the street.
No.
They should go up to the roof or get it vented somewhere
Right,
Where-
where it's not gonna be.
where the traffic is and the people are walking right in the door, and these vents
Yeah.
are right there.
Yeah, that's not a good plan.
So,
Yeah, I think whatever we send would just be like making sure that they know we have our own local regs, that they should definitely be going over them and paying particular attention to the smell factor, and septic wise, I think we're good because we've already seen.
it's the brand new septic, it's just not online yet.
Right.
We've done the inspection, it's not operational, it's stubbed up to this new part of the building.
Yeah.
They did pull a plumbing permit to put in the new bathrooms.
Yeah.
There is a grease trap if they want to do a future kitchen. We'll just have to know the number of employees.
Yeah.
We'll have, because it shares the system with 2 other parts of this building. So,
Is this where they were leaving one septic somewhere for part of it, and then they were adding
Yes.
another one for the other part of it?
yes, this
Okay.
is the same building.
It's been, what, 2 years
And
since we
there's
approved it? I don't even remember.
Cold
it.
storage, there's another company out back, there's Nature's Remedy out front, and now this place, so it's a mismatch of
And at some point there'll be a retail,
Yeah.
a third business
out
going in there for
front
retail.
of, yes, Nature's Remedy. which is also tied into the septic.
Yeah.
So the engineer was gonna clarify in writing to us how many bathrooms and employees each one of these sections have,
Yeah.
so we know
That it falls under.
if they have the adequate, and it's a brand new septic, brand new, hasn't even been turned operational yet.
Okay.
So we'll just have to know the number of employees that the system can hold. And, the venting,
Yeah, but I mean, on those vents now, if they, I mean, you know, even on a Presby, you gotta stick the candy canes 10 feet in the air, you know, 'cause
For the
up there
septics.
it'll dissipate the smell better.
right,
You know what I mean? Maybe we gotta add that to a reg for the future. We just assumed people would do that, but,
right, and
you know.
the other growery that's up the street, has a total different venting system that this one has. But that one, they just planted seeds 3 weeks ago, so there's nothing growing yet to see
Yeah.
if that one has the smell. They're saying they're not gonna, it's on the center of the roof, it blows it directly up into the air.
And I'd worry less about that one because it's further away from the residential, but
It's actually closest, that's the closest to the houses, we Googled it on maps. There's houses
Really?
within 500 feet, we
like
thought.
cold
Up-
storage was here and the houses were here, and then Bountiful Farms was on the other side of Talbot's, I thought.
Right, but if you look, there are some
Behind.
houses on Rhode Island Road that
Okay.
actually are a lot closer to it.
It's behind the old landfill,
Doug
kinda.
Johnson's.
Yeah,
Doug
behind the
Johnson's bogs.
Yeah, so we went on Google Maps and you can
Right.
see that is the closest one to houses, is Bountiful Farms.
Okay.
The others are just close to the road and the other businesses around the industrial park. And then maybe at some point we would have them, we had all the other places come into the meeting, the board. I don't know if you guys still wanna do that with this one, we had,
We might as well.
I
Yeah,
can't
We
remember
did
if they
everybody
came in or
else.
not. Did they?
I don't believe this one has, this is a new
We've
one.
had so many come before.
We had the original one and then
Yeah.
Bountiful Farms came. And then they can discuss with us their plans for the
Right.
tight tank and venting and,
Mm. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Just have them come however they can.
so we wanna send a letter, does someone wanna state on the letter what you need?
Chris can do this one.
Yeah. Make a motion to send a letter to the ZBA saying that we have no problems at this time with the hearing going forward for Northeast Alternatives. Just, we'd like to make sure that they know that we have our own set of regulations they can find on our website. And we will have questions as far as the smells and some other siting issues that at some point they should plan to be on a board, a meeting with us.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next on the agenda, 4 Beechwood Avenue, process of additional betterment approval. This is one of the first ones we've had on this one. They had the original price, but they hit ledge and rock.
Yeah, they hit some large boulders. The boulders were so large they couldn't even take them out with machines, so they had to have someone come in and split the boulders
Yep.
and then take them out with a
Wow.
machine. So there was a considerable amount of extra work. And they went quite a bit deeper as well because the boulders were so large. They ended up going about 8 to 9 feet deep.
They have to fill it all back with
Originally,
sand.
they thought they could go about 4 feet deep. So there's a lot more boulders taken out and a lot more sand brought in.
Okay. And then I believe on these betterments, we do have a 10% contingency put on them.
Yeah.
This one was more than that 10%.
Okay.
So we were thinking maybe we wanna do a 20% contingency on them, which doesn't change anything. I know Lori had looked into it. They don't get charged, it's just pre-approved that much over the estimate in
Okay.
case something like this happened, so we wouldn't have to go back to this.
Well, this is $8,000. That wouldn't be covered under 20% or 30%,
What was the original 29,000 or?
something like that. Yeah. This is asking for. Well, they added 10 more in this, so this is almost $9,400 more.
Additional.
Yeah. Yeah, this one couldn't have been expected. Who witnessed the perks in the ledge?
That one I don't know.
Nothing they can do now. Is it already done? They already did it, right? If
Yeah,
they were
this
there?
one's
Yeah.
done. And out there, there's no way to move the system.
Yeah.
They didn't have
No,
any
no,
options with,
Yeah, there wasn't any other way.
No, I
Yeah,
feel bad for the
undersized
people
lots
getting
and-
stuck.
Did you see it?
$8,000.
I saw the excavation, yeah.
Yeah, was it all sand around it?
Underneath the boulders, yes, but
And-
like I said,
But around it, like, were they obviously like, you know, glacial deposit stuff, like, or was it ledge? You know, what I mean,
no, it wasn't ledge, it was boulders.
Just the
All
boulders?
the boulders they can remove, so
So maybe they
once the
just missed
boulders
it.
removed, you had some nice, you
Right.
had some nice sands. But like I said, it was the amount of space or volume that was taken out in the boulders
Yeah.
had to be replaced with the sand, and just, especially splitting the boulders, cause like I
Yeah.
They had
said,
to
they
have
were
a
too big
rock
to take out
splitter.
of the machine.
well,
So they had to get them split and then taken out and then removed.
they must have just missed them when they did the parks then.
Right. Well, they might have seen them, or just thought they were gonna be able to get them
They
out.
didn't
or-
deep enough. Yeah.
They used what they could to build a small retaining wall with the broken stones, but most of them they had to take out because it was excessive.
And again, in this neighborhood, there's nowhere to move the system.
Oh,
There is
yeah.
no option. It's not like just slide it
Yeah.
40 feet.
Yeah.
It had to go.
Yeah.
No, I'm okay with it, I just feel bad that the people had to do it, but, hey, we get the money.
Okay, so we
I'll
wanna-
make a motion that we approve the additional funds of $9,385 to the betterment for 4 Beechwood Ave.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
I
Aye.
Okay, that's all set.
Sign that one. We're gonna go down to approval of Board of Health meeting minutes from February 19th, 2020, as typed.
That's
Bob-
you two probably.
Yeah, Paul was present at the meeting, but he did not stay for the entire meeting. And the entire meeting is on these minutes, so
Yeah.
it'll just be,
Safer if you two do it.
I'm fine with it all.
I'm good too. I'll make a motion to approve Board of Health meeting minutes from February 19th, 2020 as typed.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's abstain. And I gotta take off, but can I just say something before you guys get going again?
Yeah.
We're expecting anybody that actually watches this, that in the next couple of weeks, that this virus is gonna be much worse than we know once all the test kits come out. So, I just wanna strongly recommend to people, if your kids are sick, please do not send them to school, even if it's an inconvenience. If you're sick, try to stay away from people. My bet is at our next meeting in 2 weeks, the news reports are gonna be much worse than they are today. So if everybody can wash their hands and try to use some common sense, that would be, much appreciated. And that's it for me, alright? I gotta blow.
Okay,
Alright, thanks guys.
thank
See you, Bob.
you. Did you have anything to put in on the coronavirus as far as anything, discussion we've been feeling?
Yeah, no,
Bob brought it up?
Just what Bob said.
Okay.
Hygiene is really important now, even though the risk is very low, maybe in Massachusetts now. It may not stay that way for long. We already have a few cases here. And the thing with the coronavirus is, a lot of times people get it, the symptoms are very mild, so you may not realize you have the coronavirus. So what Bob said about, being a little sick, washing your hands, stop shaking hands with other people, that'll go a long way in preventing the spread. That's all.
And I believe I also heard they want you to call ahead to your doctor's office, I
Correct.
believe. Or if you're going to the doctor's, if you think you're sick with the coronavirus or have the symptoms, they want you to please call ahead. Just don't show up and walk in.
Correct. In some cases, they may not tell you to go to the hospital, they may tell you to stay at home. So it's better to call first and then listen to what your doctor's saying.
Okay. Want to do mosquito control?
Just an announcement that the Bristol County Mosquito Control Project has already posted in multiple newspapers that there is the possibility of aerial spraying this year. We're trying to be a little bit proactive and get it out of the way early. in the recent regulation change over the past year with how bad the Triple E was last year, they've been able to do it a single time early. They'll still also be notifying any town ahead of time before they do any spraying. So, they usually say when there is an outbreak of Triple E that the next year can be just as bad. So, it's a good warning to think about now as the weather starts to change. If you need any more information, this stuff will be on our website, or you can also go to mass.gov, the MDR site, or the Plymouth County Mosquito Control Project.
Perfect. Okay, that's it under correspondence and under new business. Next would be old business, tabled from 2/19/20, 57 Long Point Road. Continuing discussion with Stantec Engineering to discuss local upgrade approval.
I want to shake hands, but I probably shouldn't, right, based on what you just said. So I don't know what's going on with this virus, but I'm John Friscoli, and I wanted to say hello and
Doing, John.
and meet
Nice
you.
to meet you.
And appreciate all your help and guidance. And this virus I hope it doesn't have a huge impact on Edaville. That's what that's the next thing.
Yeah.
You know,
I'll,
it's going to be very interesting what happens in the next
See.
couple of months. You
Yeah.
know, what is spreading it? I mean, is it?
just human to human contact.
Is that what?
Yeah, it's not airborne, which is good. So that's the other thing too. We probably should say is the masks. Stop buying masks.
Yeah.
It's for
They
people who
said
have
that.
it that need to wear
Right.
the masks, not
Right.
people who don't have it.
So
Well,
if
it's
you
good
think
you're
you
being
have
proactive.
it, you should wear the mask.
Right. Well, it's good you're on top of it, and I don't. Hopefully, it, goes away.
Yeah.
Right.
They're thinking it might go away as the warmer weather gets
Oh,
here.
really?
Yeah, like the flu. They're not sure, but they hope it might.
It's amazing the impact it has nationally, though, isn't it? I mean, the stock market and everything else,
Everything.
and everybody's panicking. They're trying to keep the lid on it, I think, but as far as the panic.
Thank you so much.
We've just, Stantec has stopped travel.
Yeah.
Unless you've got to go out of the office, don't.
I get 2 emails a week working for the government and about this is what we should do. This is the directives and stuff like that comes through.
Yeah, they're just trying to keep everybody from spreading anything.
Yes. Okay, I'm Kevin Klein from Stantec. Met John Friscoli, the owner of the property.
Yep.
And Attorney Bill Pizzoni. Since the last meeting, I've had a conversation with Don Martinez about his proposal, about the project. Got him all our background information. Gave him a link to all the design and the O&M and everything else.
Yep.
So he's got all of that. We have also sent you a letter this morning addressing both the manifestly unjust provision that I had talked about but not put in writing,
Yep.
and then also prepared by Attorney Pizzoni to look at the fact that this should be considered not to be new construction but reconstruction of the existing. I guess do the easy one first, the manifestly unjust. I mean, without the variance, the site is unbuildable. They've got $3 million worth of improvements. $1 million of that was wastewater related that was put in a couple years ago. Since then also, Mr. Friscoli has bought the property, which is assessed, I believe, at $3.5 million by the town, as it is. And then, so without building this, or without giving this variance, the site you can't put a septic system on it, and the site is unbuildable.
And did you see that email? Did you get forwarded on that comments today?
I got this one from Nick.
How about if I give you mine then?
Okay, because that was your question at the last meeting.
Yeah.
That just got sent today. So that answers that question.
I just want the board to know, too, that I worked very closely with the Toll family, and I did everything I could for them. And I made sure they had a soft landing based on what they were, the hand of cards they were dealt, you know, just as a human side of this thing.
Yeah,
And
as far as the
I
nursing
hope you
home.
know that, and, because it was a very tough situation with them and the bank and everything, and I interceded in that to make sure that, so I got them as a lot wholer than they would have been
Okay.
without my involvement. So I thought that was important, where they had such a big role in the town for so many years and had such a nice reputation, and, you know, everybody kind of felt bad. So I just, not having met with you before,
Right.
I just wanted you to know that, that I did everything I could for them.
Yeah, and now the buildings have been demolished.
Yes, I hired, well, what I did was, Mr. Chairman, is I hired Lopes Construction,
Yep.
who is very good. It does their own recycling and everything else, and, you know, transfer. And then I hired an asbestos contractor, which it's all documented. And I had, you know, I used the review that they did. They did, you know, I did everything by the book, and everything was handled correctly, and that's all been done. And obviously, through the process, the planning board, you know, gave us the approval to move forward, and to a limited amount, and the building
Yeah.
inspector's everybody's been very supportive and happy with the project, and obviously, there's some nuances here we're trying to work through, but, you know, I just want you to know that everything has been, I've been really enjoyed working with the town, and it's been a very good relationship. And-
Now,
and-
has the work from Lope stopped out there? Now you're to this point, or are they still?
Well, no, where I'm at right now is I am gonna table the site, in preparation of the foundations.
Because I know they needed to remove some of the existing septic leaching areas, which we
Mhm.
wanted to be
Yep.
Right, well, that,
notified of.
right, well, that hasn't,
That hasn't, okay,
right,
that
no.
was,
Okay, let me rephrase that. The utility percent, other than the pieces that were removed that you're aware of.
yes, I
Okay,
inspected the
right,
tank
I remember,
removal.
that's right, they
and
told
the
me somebody was,
manholes.
so that
I
was you,
came- Yes,
okay,
I came
that's
out.
great.
Edward, our agent, hadn't started yet.
Okay,
So
so
I
they were, you
specifically
know, they were,
went
I'm
and
sure
inspected
Lopes
it.
was very courteous and all that,
Yep.
and Adam was good. That's as far as we need to go,
Okay.
as far as the foundation footprints, I believe, you know, or is there a little bit left?
No, there are a couple of some of the
Trenches.
leaching
Okay,
trenches,
so-
the northernmost leaching
So
trenches
Lopes
will
will
need to
reach
come
out
up
to
when
you
he gets
on
there.
that.
Yes,
so
and
what-
our agent
Right,
Yes.
wants to be there, and I believe Nick, or I don't even know if this, the new agent, the company is gonna be there, or if we're just gonna have Ed
Okay.
do that inspection as far as.
so the
leaching.
goal right now would be, is to prepare the pads and get those tabled and properly prepared, and then re-inspected by the geotechnical engineer. At the same time, you know, if there's a little adjustments like you just mentioned, we'd take care of those. And that would let the next trade get in there and keep it moving. I mean, there is a timing thing here,
Yeah.
and I know we've been working hard to, you know,
Right.
and I understand all the issues. So I just want to let you know that everything's been transparent. I've worked with the fire department, I've worked with, you know, all the different departments, and according to the Board of Health as well, both on the re-perking of the thing and also on the, you know, on the removals. And you were kind enough to take time, and I know you gave your cell phone out, which I think was something you don't normally see, and I appreciate it. I just want you to know that, from the owner.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Before we get too far from the demo, so all the demo was done out there. We just wanted to make sure that anything that was remediated, any documentation, was that all
We've sent
submitted?
that in like twice now on the asbestos.
To who?
We sent it into town hall, and twice I think it went to the building department. And
We
here.
haven't seen it
Well,
here.
I copied you on it, Kevin.
I'll
Brenda,
take a
Brenda, and
Alright.
I've copied, you know, Brenda, we have 2 dates when we did send it, we have confirmation. It's all done, so
Yeah.
there's, it,
it's
there's
just so we can have a
nothing-
copy for
Well,
our
yeah, of
file,
course,
for our
this is
record.
part of
What-
our
what-
local regs.
Yes, but just so you know, I talked, before I did anything, I talked to the building inspector who issued the demo permit, and I told them who's gonna do the asbestos work, and they came up and did it, and then there's a manifest for that, and then that all went to someplace in Utah, and then it wasn't a hell of a lot of stuff, it was less
Right.
than a trailer.
Yeah.
And then Lopes didn't start until all that was done, and then re-inspected by the person who did the plan, you know, the original plan. They have to go, it's not, the person who actually does the removal is different than the scientist that tells you what to remove. They don't let those two mix because there could be a conflict there. So I had to pay 2 different agencies basically, or 2 different subcontractors to do it, which we did. So you had the initial review, then you hire an abater, he comes in, and then you hire the review people to come back and make sure the abater did everything that was on the abatement requirement, which we did all those steps. And I've documented all this, and it was quite expensive,
Right.
and that's done.
Okay.
And
So
I
long
will
as we-
forward it to you tomorrow. I could forward it
Yeah,
to you.
and I
right
made
now,
sure
but
that was done,
Okay.
not just for you folks,
So
but for
that'll-
DEP,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
you know, everybody's very fussy about it.
Right.
And Lopes themselves, you know, so we had all that, and,
Yeah.
and then Lopes came in and then removed the buildings, and I also have the manifest for that. So all that material
Was
that
all
was there
documented.
was all documented, it was all brought to Taunton
Yeah.
and processed there under a DEP site assigned facility, and processed, and then, you know, different things went different places depending on what it was. The concrete got crushed.
Yeah.
The demo went into rail cars to be shipped to landfills.
Okay.
That's how they do it.
Right. And then we'll go on to the second part of your the email today, was under
Yes.
the not new construction.
The not new
Okay, you said you
construction.
did talk to somebody at DEP
Yeah,
in Boston, were they gonna,
they're not gonna
Just
send
as-
anything. I
they're
just called
outside.
them to get their thoughts on it as
Okay.
well, to make sure I wasn't missing the boat.
yeah,
And they said, yeah, no, that sounds rational. And, because they weren't there when they wrote it either.
right,
So they were just giving me their opinion as well. And basically, it's that the criteria, the 4 criteria that are listed there, aren't cumulative. If they were, it would have said and then it would have encompassed all of them. And the reason it was set up like that when I had my discussion with them was, all projects are different. There are different aspects to it. If you had a project that was a bunch of small houses with all different systems, that's when your multiple bedrooms and multiple units would come into play. Where you have a facility like this, where everything feeds into one system, and actually the other buildings are actually part of the nursing home because it housed the owners and the people that work there. And it all went in there, then it's considered a facility. And the first two criteria, which is you don't increase the flow and you don't increase the capacity,
right,
and also the number of bedrooms, because the number of bedrooms would drive the flow and the capacity.
right. So what I was reading, it did say bedrooms, what I was reading, but this is considered a facility.
Right.
Cause we're not going by bedrooms.
Right.
We're
No,
going
Right.
by
Beds versus
Right,
bedrooms,
but you
yes.
take the
well,
total
units
number,
and
Units.
and
You take
150
the ton-
gallons per day per
Yep.
unit.
yeah, you
Yes.
take the total number of
Mm-hmm.
bedrooms that were in the nursing home and the house, and then figure each one of the units that are up there have the bedrooms in them, and the gallonage, and that's how you factor it.
And we do this, I do this a lot with larger sites. I've got one on the Cape right now that's a private club and has got multiple uses. We're actually working with the DEP about that because it's over 10,000 gallons a day, and just kind of working on how to do it. And they're allowed, once we've identified what their flow is, they're allowed to actually start trading flow between buildings. They took out some bedrooms on a waterfront house and built more restaurant seats. Now they may switch it back. I mean, but they're allowed because
it
it's
was all joined to
because
one.
it's all joined.
It's all one
Yeah.
facility.
And they look at it, and theirs actually has got some multiple system, more than one septic system even. So what they had to look at is the entire flow, and then the flow to any individual septic system to make sure you don't exceed that, and or increase to that. And so that's kind of what they do here. Here, it's all one facility, one septic system. We're decreasing flow, decreasing the number of buildings, decreasing the criteria to get to the flow, the units versus nursing home beds. So it's not new construction on that. It's not adding buildings. It's less buildings.
It's less buildings.
Yes.
Everything's
It's
less
and it's
impact.
less
Yeah, it was
flow.
5 buildings and you're going to 2.
Yes.
The other thing too is there's less impervious. I mean, it's more green. So there's less, am I right?
Oh yeah. There's many reasons that this is better
There's
than what was
just every
there,
little
but-
step, when you look at any corner of this, it got better environmentally.
Yeah, and you had to for the well, that's why you had to
Yes,
decrease the gallonage.
absolutely.
There was just a
to get the
lot of
well
different
radius down
things
to
driving
to
it, but I
250
just-
instead of 279.
Yeah.
The net result is a much more environmentally friendly project than what was currently existing there.
Okay.
Overall, when you look at the
Right.
totality.
Yeah. And then we were waiting on something from Taunton and New Bedford.
Taunton,
Did
yes.
that get?
I've got the Taunton stipulation dismissal and settlement there. I had to
Okay.
look at it to make sure there wasn't confidentiality
Okay.
paragraph in it.
So this is our copy for the Board of Health?
That's your copy, that's already signed by everybody and we've moved on.
Okay.
New Bedford, again, for some reason, they're taking 8 months to get this done versus what Taunton did in half the time.
But let me just add, Bill, if I may, I don't mean to interrupt my lawyer, but when we did the site walk, Taunton and New Bedford were there, and they were in harmony on everything, so
Right.
you know, it's just, I think New Bedford's a bigger city, and maybe it takes them a longer time, and people have been out on maternity leave, and there's been, you know, little complications that have nothing to do with the core issues here. But Taunton and New Bedford came out at the same time to the site. I was there personally, and we worked through all the issues. So I don't see any, you know, and Bill's talked with them on numerous occasions, so I don't suspect this.
I talk to them
and-
regularly.
Have we got
and
anything since the last meeting to?
I-
Just phone calls.
They asked me to, they were concerned with the
We're concerned with,
inspections,
yeah,
the inspections
the
and
operation and
reporting.
maintenance inspections.
that's
And
what the hell.
they weren't aware of what DEP and what you guys have talked to us about
Right.
and what we had suggested. They thought we were only gonna report, check it once a month. So had Kevin put a memo together exactly as to what we were doing.
Yeah.
We
Well,
sent
we-
them back to them. And that, I was told that was their last issue when I talked to their lawyer last Friday, but, you know, you never know. I think what it was the head of their water department was out on maternity. When she came back, she was trying to play catch-up. And so she had a lot of questions. She hadn't seen a lot of the paperwork. In fact, we sent all the paperwork on the whole site and system to them twice, at least twice. I don't know if it's third.
But you wouldn't have Taunton if they, you know, they're all talking to each other, so
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
because they have this, whatever issue they have is synonymous with each other.
Right.
It's not like that one has one issue and the other has another issue. They're all sucking out of the same, you know, reservoir.
Right.
So so I, you know.
But they were both appealed
Yeah, they both
separately,
appealed,
individually,
Yep.
so
Yeah.
there's, you
Yeah,
gotta
so
have
I'm
two
gonna have to- I
separate.
need to settle
We
both
still
of
have
them,
to get that.
Right.
Yeah, no, I have to get
But I
that
just
for
want
the
you to know we-
ZBA as well.
Correct.
And
Because we won't get our permit from them until I can file that. And just, if you look at the Taunton,
Yeah.
agreement, if you look at the covenants that they requested the First Colony give them, I can tell you that in my discussions with New Bedford, on the first one, they wanted the signage to reference the regulation in section 123A about willful trespass. So we said that we put that on the sign.
Okay.
The next one had to do with, they wanted it, they don't want them entering the water or the 25-foot buffer zone around the reservoir. So they added that to that. The next one, they just added not only capacity, but are changing any materials that would go into the system, which is fine. And then the last one was, we needed to advise them and provide them notice if there's any issues with the treatment system or anything that would impact its maximum treatment.
And we would have our operator adopt these, which is whitewater.
And then on that further was, they wanted us to submit daily reports, which I thought was a bit absurd. So I told them, I said, look, we have somebody going out there, they're out there weekly, and we have to do a monthly report. We'll give you the same information. And I think she was afraid that nobody would be out there for a month at a time. She wasn't aware of the fact that somebody's gonna be out there
Well, it's
weekly.
not just somebody,
Yeah, it's the inspector.
it's a person with a state license.
Yeah, the
Right.
operator.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
operator.
So
What we
when-
gave them, just to help them out, was told them, the operator's essentially out there once a week. They do in-house sampling, process monitoring, looking at it, they change over the blower, they switch back and forth, but they do the process monitoring on a weekly basis. Once a month, they collect samples and send them out to the lab. That's sampled influent and effluent for BOD, TSS, nitrogen series. I believe they may even be doing oil and grease, but may not have to with it being residential, but they do oil, I believe they still do oil and grease. And that's sent out to a lab. They then do essentially a discharge monitoring report, and it's submitted monthly. And it documents the daily flows, because that's recorded. It documents the time of the month that they're out there, which is essentially once a week, and all of the results. And then that has historically gone to both DEP and the Board of Health. With this being an IA system under piloting approval, it will continue to go to the DEP and the Board of Health. And if they would like it to go to New Bedford and Taunton, I have no problem having it sent there too.
Was that in this agreement?
That's what I told them
believe
in the
Tom-
letter,
I
that
believe
we'd
New
be happy
Bedford
to
had
add
asked for
that
it, yes.
to the
Yeah.
agreement.
Okay.
And what I did when we said, as I described it, and then I gave him a copy. Here's a typical month, so you could look at it. It's a nice little, it's a little report saying what they did, but then a table outlining all the sampling and everything else, and when it was done and how it was done.
And they also wanted language in there that the landscaping and the snow plow and the ice removal, you'd use organic matter, you wouldn't,
Use,
you know,
yeah.
no
Yeah.
No
phosphorus, that
solids.
type of thing.
Okay.
You wouldn't let anything, you wouldn't pile the snow so it would drain into the water.
That was in the Concom rules anyway. A lot of this is overlap.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
Concom.
the other thing, they wanted to have access to be able to come up during construction, just to check and see what was going
Okay.
on. And the last one,
And I think the
the groundwater monitoring wells, just what we've told you guys. we're
We
gonna
added the
We've
wells.
added
Now, when
some
are they
wells.
gonna be tested? The frequency of the monitoring wells
Quarterly.
quarterly.
Um,
That's what,
we can do it. I mean,
yeah.
I
Well,
Right,
we're
so
still waiting to,
Yeah. when
to
we-
have Nick give us his final. He sent us something today which almost clarified everything we had.
okay. And-
But we have to get the other, I'll let Edward discuss some on the new contract we're trying to hire. And you said
Mhm.
you did talk to
I
him.
talked with Don Martinez about it. Just so you know, groundwater discharge permit requirements. So if this were a wastewater treatment plant, up to a couple 100,000 gallons a day discharging, the operator would be out there 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. He'd be doing monthly influent and effluent sampling and quarterly monitoring well sampling. We're actually doing the same thing for the sampling. We're doing the monthly influent and effluent sampling, the quarterly monitoring well sampling, and then weekly process monitoring, which some operators do and some don't. They should,
Yeah.
just so they know what's going on with the treatment plant, but they don't always. Here, ever since we started it up, it was in the operation and maintenance manual, and it was a requirement, and it's been there. Typically, we submit a draft O&M manual with permit. We submitted our completed one, but typically we do a draft one, and for an IA system, it's usually 15 or 20 pages. This one was maybe 100 pages. And then we update it prior to starting operation. So what we want to do with this one is, we've got the big one that we did originally that was updated prior to starting operation. We're going to take that and update it again, just if there's any minor changes. Because there's going to be things like it references the number of leaching chambers or the size of the pump. Those things will change, and we'll kind of go through it with the shop drawings. If we have to change the impellers on the final effluent pump because there's less chambers, we'll note that in the operation and maintenance manual, so the operator knows when he has to replace one in 10 years exactly what it was. So that will then be the updated one submitted back to the Board of Health. So you have it on record, just like you had the original one, but you'll have that all here with the updated stuff. And included in that will be any special startup procedures that we come up with. We had a startup procedure for the first one. Now we're gonna have to come up with a modified, probably, startup procedure for this, based on what tanks are full, or what we're gonna remove from the septic tanks, what we're gonna bring in, just kind of get it so that it can react to the pace of people moving in. I don't want to have old sewage and old stuff sitting there and one user. I'd rather get it so that it's somewhat fresh as we can kind of go through it and get it in so it doesn't smell. And it's a biological system, so it takes time to react. First thing you got to do, I mean, you guys know this better than I do, but you got to build up your aerobic bacteria that'll eat the organic matter. The next phase is building up the nitrifiers. After you've done that, then you can start building up the denitrifiers and start denitrifying. But it takes time. When we start up treatment plants at schools, it takes 2 or 3 months each September, October, before they're really doing what they want, what they need to do. Here we're going to try and jumpstart it by seeding it and bringing in what we need to, but it's still going to take a little bit of time. And we also then, we need to be cognizant of is John selling 66 units on day one, or is it one on the first month? And
Right.
so
Well, for
when-
the board's
when we get-
benefit, just so you know, I plan on erecting both buildings simultaneously.
Yeah.
So this is not gonna be some long, drawn-out.
Right, doing both foundations.
We're doing both
going up.
foundations. I have, two separate framing contractors, because these are big frames, and everything will go up simultaneously. That way we can put a whole nice bow on the whole project very quickly, which is my objective, because I'm in a very sensitive area, and I don't want to cause any further impacts to you or anybody else. And if you look at how we run the site so far, I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find a gum wrapper up there right now. I mean, it's clean.
So you hope to have the whole outside of both buildings complete 100% probably before you actually have anybody move in. I
Correct.
mean, the inside might not be complete
Right.
on the second building, but
That's right.
at least
I'm
the
gonna-
outside will
we-
be
we-
done, landscape.
You'll be impressed to see how we do it, and
Go on.
and it's a very high quality product that the town, I think, will be very proud to have. And this is not, like the stuff you see near the train station. This is very, very high quality, and not that that's bad. It's just that that's more utilitarian. This is much, much nicer. And we are going to bring it up simultaneously, because we don't want to have a situation where people are living there and there's construction happening. We want it all done, and for the benefit of the inspectors and the controlled construction affidavits and everything else that's going to happen up there. It's a lot easier to do it all at once, and better utilization of your time, your agent's time, the building inspector's time, and everybody else. And that's how I set it up.
To do the construction.
yeah.
Okay. I
Um,
believe, Edward, we were also talking about when you do the testing, I think we wanted to be notified if you were out of the parameters.
Yep.
I believe it was saying 7 days. Is that what we were?
Well, he's testing every 7 days.
But we don't get set
Yeah,
the reports
if
for
they
every
do
quarter.
go and you find that nitrogen is, sky high,
mhm.
we'd like to be notified
Yep.
before that, because, the monthly report comes out once a month, so if he's out there, then we have to wait 3 weeks to find out something with high, when, we're right here. So if he can just send us an email or something with the results, it would be
Yep.
appreciated.
I think the best protocol for Kevin at this point is to make sure these folks, DEP, and if necessary, Taunton to Bedford, are in the constant chain of whatever. And every document, everything is all transparent. That way everybody has the same information. So if somebody reads something there that isn't kosher and somebody else missed it, they could chime in. But I'm very comfortable with this Whitewater company. They do a lot of work up in my other areas. And they're very substantial company. There's no Mickey Mouse. It's
Yeah.
right first class. And
And Whitewater's licensed operator that will operate the water and the wastewater systems.
right, so we have one.
And they have been out there doing that.
Well, they assembled part of the system too. with
They
Ray.
did some of,
With
they
Robert
did some of
Biauer.
the repairs,
Yeah.
the later repairs. One of the things, and I can't remember if we mentioned it 2 weeks ago, but I think we may have, but it's minor modification as we're going. There will not be an underground industrial waste holding tank for
That
the,
was one of my next questions.
for the garages. What, I've gotten back and forth with, Dave Johnson, is like, I just don't think I can do it. He said, can you go with, an underground, put it in, go with a pump it to an above ground tank. So what we're working with right now with the architect is that there will be a pump in the, collection and pump in the,
In
garage.
the underground garage.
And then we're gonna pump it, hopefully, to a spot in the garage. And we just do a concrete tank or a fiberglass tank or a steel tank in the garage.
So it'll still all be contained in the garage.
That's what we're hoping.
But
If it
above
can't,
ground,
if it can't be, it will,
Above ground, but
on a
Yeah.
slab.
Yep.
yeah.
With
If
a
it,
spill containment?
it can be spill containment or it can be double wall at that point.
Yep.
I mean, the whole basement, the whole garage is contained.
Okay.
If it leaks there, it goes right back
You
into
gotta
the same,
remember, we're not allowing,
we can't get out.
we're not allowing, people changing their oil or anything like that. And there's no washing of cars. This is strictly for, if somebody, let's say it's pouring out
And you drive in.
and you drive in
The trip.
And,
and your car drips a little bit. Or if it's snowing out and you drive in, that's the only water that's gonna come in there. And there'll be some natural evaporation in that tank. We're not gonna allow any type of, car maintenance or of any kind, or,
In the garages.
nothing.
Yeah.
They want to get their car washed, they can go to a local car wash, you know, and have, or detail or whatever. As far as oil changes, they go to their local service station or the closest dealership that would service their particular model of car or whatever. Nothing is going to be allowed there. Inside in the parking lot or inside in the garages, zero.
Yeah.
And no changing of tires, I mean, you know, nothing, zero.
The other option, and we really are going more towards the protection side, would have just been, we just collect it, you pop it through the same hydrodynamic separator and out to the stormwater, because it's not really any different than the parking lot, except that there's a lot less flow. So we said, you know, that's a fallback, and we don't want to do that. Let's do this. And when I mentioned it, those two options to
Yeah.
Dave Johnson at the meeting, he's like, rather you capture it.
Okay. And that's still gets approved through DEP, even though it's above ground storage tank.
It's actually a plumbing issue at that point. I'm not sure it's through DEP,
Yes,
but I'd
it's,
have
it's
to
under
check.
the plumbing code.
Do you know that one, Edward?
Yeah, I think it is.
It's under the plumbing code,
Okay.
because here's the thing. Say you're building a garage, you know, like a, not underground garage, but just like a surface garage, and you have like 2 bays. If you're not on public sewerage, you have to collect the floor drains and in a tight tank.
In a
That's
tight tank,
that's a
yes.
plumbing code. And I know this very, very well, because I deal with it in my industrial business of building. And but if you're on sewerage, as a public sewerage, you can do a grease,
An oil
you know,
water
an oil water
separator.
separate
Separated that
MTC
into
trap
the-
they used to call it, and then
And
you
into
can
the
put it
sewer.
into the sewer system. Yeah, but with the septic, no. So that's essentially what we're doing
Yeah.
here.
So that addresses that.
That isn't the plumbing
Yes.
code.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why the plumber is the one that's heavily involved. Our
Okay.
plumber.
It got me out of it.
But where it's industrial waste, I mean,
It's
holding
not
tanks.
really
It's not
industrial
industrial
waste.
waste. It's just.
It's just Mass DEP, when you're putting an underground tank, you've got either sanitary waste or industrial. And
Right.
so we were calling it an industrial waste
That-
for stormwater.
That's what I meant by it, because we do the
Yes.
same thing for hair salons too.
Hair
But
salon,
we still have permit
yes.
that. Well, actually, the state permits the hair salon ones, right?
You
This
just
site
notify
had
of
a-
the
had-
tank.
This-
This site had an industrial waste holding tank.
Well, they
for
had
years.
more
That
than
had
that.
one for the hair salon.
They had
We
friolators.
added that. It used to have a cesspool for it, or it was actually part of the, went to the septic. We put in the industrial waste holding tank, and we were hoping to take that one and just move it. And that's when they said, I don't think we can do it.
Okay.
But you know, that's a good thing for the folks and you folks to realize, is that there was a hair salon there. There was a full commercial kitchen. There was friolators and everything else that you would typically see, and then of course
And a
You-
maintenance garage.
in a maintenance garage. And then you also had people there with a lot of the waste from the drugs and you know, and everything else. I mean, you know, here we're talking, you know, there's none of that. So it's the impact is so much less.
Now, was gonna be a full generator on this building?
Yes.
Yes, it has to be for the elevators
And that's for
and the fire
propane?
suppression.
Is it, or?
No, that has to be, that is gonna be diesel, but it's out with outside of everything. And, but we have to have a diesel.
And there's a storage tank for that?
It would
It's
be a belly
self-contained.
tank, self-contained. They always had one out here.
Yes, there's a
used
big
to-
one top of the hill.
Yeah.
Used to be a little
That's
one.
way
Yeah,
overkill.
Used to be a little one,
for-
then there was a huge one.
Yeah, that's still there.
That may get switched out for a smaller one.
Yeah.
That'll fit this site better.
You need about a 250 kW versus the 600
That they have.
kW there. And what you need it for is not to run the buildings. You need it for the elevator, the emergency lights, and the water protection for the fire protection. Let's say,
Yeah.
for instance, there was a fire event. That pump has to be able to run no matter what the power is. And so that addresses all that.
Yeah.
It doesn't address, the generator will not address, you know, if the power's out, it's out. But this public safety aspect of the buildings is all protected no matter what.
And the public health, so there is,
And the
it
public
also
health,
addresses
the sewer system.
water supply
Right.
and the wastewater.
So
the
that will
blower-
still work.
They
That would all
still work.
Yes, and that's all
Yes.
protected, yes.
Okay.
But unlike when the nursing home was there, they had to protect, it was a much higher, you know, because you're running basically a hospital.
Yeah, everything had to stay running.
Right,
Yes.
I mean, that's not the case here.
Okay.
So there's a lot smaller package of that.
Okay. Going back to the budget, we were going back and forth with Martinage. We were trying to agree on the fees, that we were looking to get them on board and have them review this so they can send us something,
Mm-hmm.
which we still haven't done. We still haven't, so we'd like to try to get that.
I think you
I-
had some conversations on that.
Yeah,
I
and I know
spoke with
Edward,
Don,
we've had
yeah.
several, we talked again today, we're trying to see what their scope is and get a
Mhm.
budget.
We have the budget there.
So this is the new one, do you wanna explain the new one, what you discussed today
Right,
with
you
them?
seem
So there'll be some inspections the first year, and part of that, I think it's 7,500 for the first year, but then it'll be 2,000 after
you-
that per year.
We were just going back and forth with this today, trying to get this done. So we
Mhm.
have numbers and we know what everything's.
We could actually have Whitewater too, when they do their, whatever they're transmitting to you, transmit to him as well, just like automatically.
So they're aware.
Right. I think the more transparency here,
Right.
Mr. Chairman, the better, because that way there, you know, you've got a lot of eyes reviewing, and I think eventually, after a couple of years, you're gonna say these people know what they're doing,
Right.
and you have
Mhm.
a comfort level.
Now, did this proposal line up with what Nick had sent today, with his inspection on this email he sent at the very end? It did line up, so it matches.
I think we paid something on Nick.
I think Don and Nick had talked.
I think we had given some fee on Nick, hadn't we? Like $5,000 or something, to look at the system.
I,
I
yeah.
think he charged.
Yeah, Nick had been,
Yep.
but when it went to a treatment system,
Mhm.
HML Associates felt it was out of their scope.
I see.
Seeing it's
Mhm.
above Title V, it's a treatment system. So he referred it to Martinage Associates
Mhm.
Engineering to
And-
actually
And Nick
look.
has known me for 35 years.
Fine.
He was the inspecting engineer when I built Bass River Marina in the early 80s, so he knows I do a thorough job.
And he's been our review engineer for the Board of Health
Mhm.
for many, far back as I can remember.
Yeah.
So that's-
And certainly we'd have it set up so that the operator will, and they do it, send out emails with the reports. And
Okay.
they'd copy Board of Health, they copy me.
Okay.
Um,
There you go. Maybe we can get a copy of that, huh?
Yes, so we were looking to have,
That's not the final, that,
Oh.
you can see
Yes, I
it's
saw that.
scratched.
Yep.
yeah, we were trying to limit to what we need done and not go
Mm-hmm.
over the top or anything, and we didn't wanna charge too much for a yearly fee, cause it's gonna get passed on to the,
But what,
Yep.
one of the things there was the ACO, and we were using that old ACO from the previous one, which had things like linens and things like that to be removed, so we wanted to make it clear. So the new ACO will be for the 66 units, not for
The new permit, not the, there isn't
Correct.
an ACO. There isn't an ACO.
We're just
'cause everything
saying
goes away.
ACO,
Okay,
but
yes,
we wanna take
Yep.
everything that was approved for that system and
and write
roll
up
it
something
into
for
a
this.
new one,
Yes.
so that's what we need done.
Okay,
And that's what Martinage would do, so we tried to get a number, what he needs to do, we talked to him today.
And that's,
If we get him on board tomorrow, he can have this done, everything we need in writing for the
Mhm.
next meeting. So
Okay.
we have everything we need.
Okay.
And we talked to our town council, we had a phone conversation with him today, he was unable to make it tonight. He can make it to the next meeting,
Have you spoken with him?
but he was,
Okay.
he agreed that we have to have all this
yes.
done before we can make a motion
Okay,
either way on what to do. We have to have everything agreed upon, because you just can't take that ACO.
right.
Nope.
There's all types of different things. I mean, we're gonna still keep the 7,000 gallons, of the annual
average, yep.
average that was in that.
Yeah.
And whatever else is needed in that, like I said, the linens we don't need, I mean, that was for the nursing home, that doesn't
Mhm.
make any sense. So we need all that done, and then we were gonna go with the bond, what we were discussing with the bond, we were still up in the air. How you guys wanted to work that, cause we feel there should be some money sent aside in case something happens and the association is unable to.
Well, the association
Immediately
has
fix
to, well,
this.
the association has to have reserves.
Right.
So if in order for, I want you to get comfortable with that, because the association, in order for them to get a mortgage, the reserves have to be appropriate in there, there's substantial reserves, and the developer has to provide that. So there is, the beautiful thing about this for the town is that instead of dealing, you're dealing with an association, you've got 66 people paying into this thing, and there's a reserve there. It's not just to fix the septic system, it's also to make sure the pavement gets repaired, or if a drainage failure, or you have a small washout, or if you have a roof problem. there's a reserves in there, and I think there'll be, I mean, there's gonna be ample money in there. You have somebody to, you know, and it's gonna be professionally managed. That's the other thing. You're not gonna have to rely on somebody there that's, you know, kinda doing this half-ass. You're gonna have a professional, I'm gonna install a professional management team, so these people are, you know, that's all part of the monthly
Right.
fee. So when you're a Board of Health agent, or if, say, God forbid, there was an issue, there's a professional manager step right in, they'd fund it, and that's it. I
Right.
mean, there's no issue, and then, you know, DEP didn't require a separate bond, I don't believe, when they did this. And you only were looking toward the tolls on that. Here you've got 66 people that are paying in, and the likelihood of all 66 being penniless is,
Right, well, what I think we're looking for as far as the board and what we're talking about with the bond is to have the money set in an account in case of emergency that can be drawn on by the time to fix something if it can't get fixed. I believe
Well, you're
that's
gonna
what-
There, if it, like, I think you were looking at it because in the beginning we were discussing about being rental for a while. So it'd be all under one owner. So you wanted some sort of a bond in place. When he starts selling them, he can replace that bond with funding.
yeah, we're not making this a
from the
rental.
different people.
This is gonna be a for sale project.
Right, so there'll be
Right.
66 owners
66
in the
66
association.
owners, people paying into a professional association, professionally managed. You're not gonna have any issue with anything the town could request, even outside of your purview. If if there was some other issue up there that the Conservation Commission needed, or the planning board needed, or the building inspector needed addressed. There's somebody to speak to that has the resources and has that. There's no problem. There's gonna be a lot of money in that account.
Right. Okay, Ed Hatz wants to chime in. I know he's
Part
been
of it,
dealing
too,
with this.
When
is-
you have a homeowners association like that, you do have 66 people who
Right.
have to make a decision, and sometimes that can take time. And if there's an emergency situation, we need to get someone out there fast.
Well,
We
actually,
need to get it fixed.
Actually, you don't need 66 people. 66 people are paying in. Typically, when the homeowners association, there's 3 trustees
Right.
that run it. The other 66 people have little to no say. They have an annual say on what the budget is, and there's an annual meeting, but there's 3 people that they vote in. After the developer, I'm out of the picture. Then they have 3 trustees. But typically, those trustees hand over the day-to-day management to a management company, which is how I'm gonna set it up. So it's really no burden on them, but they would make the decisions. But there's only 3 people, and if there's an emergency situation, it's right in the bylaws, they're gonna do it. There's nobody, you don't have to go get 66 yays and nays. There's 3 people, and then there's an association, and typically on my condo docs, on any type of emergency, whether there's a water main break or whatever it is, there's nobody to talk to. The management company solves it. That's it, you know, on any type of crisis like that. Typically, where the votes would come in is things like, okay, do we want to put new roofs on this year, or do we want to budget for, we want to add more plantings, or do we want to change the budget? So we want to get, we want to do more plowing, or whatever, or we want to, have housekeeping on the public areas twice a day instead of once a day. Those are the typical things that are voted in by all the people at an annual meeting. But just so that you and your agent are protected, I'm sorry my back's to you, but the reality of it is you'll never have that. That situation could never happen.
I think whether it's 66 or 3, it's still 3 people that you don't know and we don't know will make that decision. And I think for insurance for us, we would like to make that decision quickly, and we would like the funds to do that. So in a case of emergency where days matter, that we feel we could act more quickly in an emergency situation, rather than 3 people who will change as well. So 1, we don't know who these 3 people are, and 2, these 3 people could change because, like you said, they're voted in. So depending on who they vote for, we really don't know who those people are and how responsible they will be. So wouldn't like to, the town wouldn't like to give up that responsibility. We would like to keep that responsibility on us and to act, only if they don't act. If they act and they are doing as you say, then we won't intervene. But in cases where they don't act, then we feel we would like some insurance for that.
But just so you know, they're not going to be acting. The management company will be acting.
Yeah, usually in the bylaws I do, in the condominium associations, there's a requirement that if it's a public health or safety issue, it gets done immediately. Okay, I understand your concern that where's the money coming from? What if they haven't funded their accounts?
Right.
And
On
what
a
about-
$1,000,000
and
system
what
you sent
about-
us
what
today
about
that this
before?
cost,
What about before?
there could be some very large costs if
Right.
this tank fails, leaks, the pumps go.
But what about before he's even conveyed them out? And I think what you're looking for is either some sort of a bond in place for that. And what he can do is, he can pass it on to the buyers as they're
Right.
going, and he gets paid back.
And I look at it as something long term because I know from my own personal experience living in condos when I was younger,
Yeah,
you know, on the way in they just replaced the septic system, and then as we sold it on the way out, we had to pay for the brand new one coming in 4 years. I know it was a true, you know, it was a bigger tradition. It wasn't this type of system, but still, I'm thinking 10, 15 years out. You know, we don't know what's going to be going on. If the account is established now and then it's passed over and it's built up, you know, we have something to fall back on, and then the people there will have something to fall back on that they've been putting money into, and it's been established,
Yeah.
and it
What-
keeps going forward, and we don't worry.
Yeah, what Mass
That something's gonna
DEP
go
used to
bad.
do with wastewater treatment plants is they had to establish a capital reserve fund
right.
for immediate repair and replacement. And you use some of those funds if you needed to do repairs, and then you replenish them. And they built up funds over a 20-year period, so that in 20 years, you will have had accrued enough money to replace the portions of the plant that need replacing. That's the way they used to do it. The way they tried to simplify it, and they're going to fix the way they've simplified it, is they looked at it and said, we need 25% of the cost,
That's what I read.
exclusive of the leaching system, which is what is usually what you replace. Now, why they're going to change, why they're most likely, and what I've talked to a couple of people about changing on that is, that doesn't make sense because it's the leaching system that you typically replace, not the rest of it. Concrete tanks and collection system are included in that, and like this $1 million include concrete tanks that are good for 50 years, at least. Sewage collection system that you'll do some repairs on, but this was minimal. But on the old one, it was an extensive sewage collection system. So I know they're going back and looking at it again, just to figure out what is the best way to do it. I think it's kind of a little of each, because I've looked at, I mean, way they're going looking at treatment plants that have been around for 20 years now, some big ones, and they say it's the cost of building it when you built it. It's like, okay, well, I'm doing this, and I go, 20 years ago, that $4 million plant
Long
cost less
ago.
than $1 million, and so they only need this amount, and their plant's that old, whereas this brand new one has to put aside 25% of everything except for leaching. And I think they're kind of getting back and saying, well, maybe take some time to accrue it. Maybe start off and say, okay, first year you need $10,000. And then you accrue a certain amount until you get to a reserve. And then you look at it after 10 or 15 years. Because what you're taking money out and using it for, I mean, this plant has got pumps and blowers. Pumps you're going to be replacing every 8 to 10 years anyhow. Blowers are probably going to be replaced every 10 to 15 years. That's...
Now, on a treatment system, do they pump the septic tank frequently like they do a residential, or no, they don't? They don't want that pumped?
No, you still pump it.
The first
it really,
tank?
It really
before the-
depends on
So
use.
you'll have that
We
fee?
typically say every year.
Okay, so
Every
you still have
6
the
months to a
pumping
year.
fee.
Depends on when it was, and I'm going to modify this. When it was the nursing home, I had it every 6 months. Or I might have even had quarterly. Because the amount of grease coming down.
We don't have
boy-
that.
No, you don't.
Right,
So you're kind of looking at it, and the operator's going to go out there and measure it and say, my tanks are oversized and I don't have enough sludge in here, I'm going to let it stay. And then it may be every 2 or 3 years, because we got a lot of tankage out here. And you're taking this stuff, not only is it tanks, but your first septic tank is truly a pre-treatment tank. You're doing denitrification in there, because we're recycling back through it. So you want stuff in there so that you can get bacteria growing there to denitrify, to help it out. So you don't want to have it emptied out too frequently. But yeah, that's part of the maintenance. There's electricity, there's
But Whitewater
pump
makes the
repairs.
call on that.
Whitewater will be doing that. I make a recommendation, and I'm gonna have to look back at the O&M manual that I did for the nursing home and modify it based on reduced flow and reduced intensity of the organics and everything else.
So once the system gets up and running and all the people have moved in and you're gone and association takes over, are you totally out of the picture now? So it's now just Whitewater and us?
No, he
Uh,
would
you
be the
will
resident
have-
engineer that Whitewater
you
would
will
lean
still
on
have
in the event.
Yep.
overseeing of this?
I don't have to, but I typically do. I get almost every treatment plant that I've designed, I get well, not everyone, but a lot of them, I still get copies of the discharge monitoring reports. Even on the ones that I'm not hired to look at them, I look at them. Because okay, that was working good. I've been doing this for 35 years. It's amazing how many plants I go back to now. I still have plans for them. But yeah, on this one, I was hired to look at the monitoring reports, and then we also talked with DEP about it as we're going along, because it was a sensitive area. And I envision on this one, I will still be engaged to review the monitoring reports, and
Well, I'm gonna insist upon it, so
Right.
that's for whatever that is
Well,
worth.
see, what really concerns me is after you're out of it, you know, down the road and
I know
the
a
town
lot
of
of,
Lakeville
right.
is
all
on.
you,
we're
all
not-
you have to do
and
is
everything is
put in the
where I'm
permit
concerned.
that they engage the services of an engineer to review the operation and maintenance of the plant. That's typically DEP. DEP used to require it at all treatment plants, then they stopped. Now they're putting it back in and requiring it again. Because all of a sudden they realize that if you don't put it right in the permit and say that you have to do it, people aren't gonna pay to do it.
But you have an engineer reviewing it right now, that's what we're paying for.
Right, there's gonna be a yearly
Right.
inspection of the
So
system
Kevin,
that we
Kevin
want.
would get reports annually and, you know, and do an annual review, we'll put that into the budget. That's on top of the engineer and on top of Whitewater, so you've really got 3 stages, not to mention the fact that everybody's seeing this thing. All your people, Taunton, New Bedford, DEP,
Yeah,
I mean, that's an awful lot of belts and suspenders. The last
Okay.
person that should have any burden on this should be the taxpayer of Lakeville. I understand that, and I'm gonna make sure they don't.
right, that's why we just have
Mhm.
this,
Right, I agree.
like I said, the first year's more because of doing
Yep.
It's
the,
a startup and all
It's
that.
the
startup,
startup and
yep.
it's not an ACO, but getting our agreement
Yes.
so you guys can agree, we can agree. But so we'll have to keep talking in the next week or so with the bond, because that is also coming from Nick Laney and Martinich. They're still say we should have this, so they sent today, looks like to be about 10% of the cost. If it's $1 million, it says 100,000, that came in from them today. So we need to
Well,
agree
the
on,
likelihood of the whole
discuss
system
how-
being, you know, I don't know, I think that's a little bit strong.
And again, I mean, I'm open for discussion with them, but this is coming from,
Well, we started with DEP's
25%.
25%.
which would be 250,000.
Come less-
Actually, no, it
less
wouldn't
than
be
half.
because
It's not on the
the
field.
leach field doesn't.
Correct.
And
So
that's
again, we
half,
don't
that's
know-
half of it.
I think, I don't know if Nick has reached out to you. He was trying to
No, he
get
hasn't.
the cost of what this was
Yep.
at the time, so we had a budget to go by.
Yep.
But they just sent this today because we kept asking what,
Why don't we work through that over the next couple of days?
whether we, you know what I mean? I don't know if you could do it at every closing. I'm sure there's ways to,
Yeah.
Well,
and-
no, the
to
way the
come up
bond would
with-
have to work,
No,
no,
I
no,
don't-
what I would have to do is if we agree on a bond, let's just say, for conversation,
X, whatever,
let's say it's
X.
50,000, all right, or whatever the number is, it's $1. That would
Say
be,
it's 66.
that would be, I would provide surety with my, you know, with the bank, and then when I'm out of it, they would have to supplement that bond and banks have no problem bonding homeowners association because it's a steady stream of income. I'll give you an example. If you have a condominium complex and they have a huge capital improvement, they can actually get financing for that based on the income stream of their monthly VIG that they get from each owner. So it's just like, you know, so there's no issue. So we'll figure the logistics of that out. I think if we end up going with some amount of a bond, I would like that to not have to be kicked in until the first occupancy permit was issued. So you'd have to have the surety posted at that point.
What's your feeling on that one, Edward? Do you know
This is not being
much?
used.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, that
sense
makes-
if it's not being used until the first.
mean, what's the
month,
point?
There's no reason
Right.
he would pay that, cause he could be paying for months when
Right.
it's not in operation.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And the same thing with all these other inspections and everything, other than the construction inspections.
Yeah.
Obviously, that has to be done. But as far as like these, you know, the monthly
No, it
and
won't-
all that, I mean,
that won't
Whitewater's
happen
not
until
gonna
we're-
do anything if there's no flow. I
Right.
mean, you know, so it's, I think I think the trigger for all this would be prior to the first occupancy permit. We could tie
Which
that into
I
that.
think I would be fine with that. I don't,
think
that's
that- and-
reasonable.
and I think that would
just,
be fine.
again, we can, you know,
Yeah.
But
I
the-
have to
the
agree on
bank-
the number
Initially, the
Yeah.
surety.
between everybody.
If we provide a number, whatever that number is.
So
the
they're
sh-
saying 100 we got today, so.
But,
just
but
let-
whatever the number is,
Right.
the surety would be provided, you'd have by my bank, and, you know, that's in that Massachusetts bank, and that's what it is. It's not 100,000 in cash, but you can draw on it. It's guaranteed. It's no different than a road bond with a bank
Okay.
for a subdivision.
Right. While we're talking about this too, like you've mentioned how like you wanted this to be a nice project for to everyone
I do.
to, and for the same respect, like, you know, we live here and the residents are gonna look to us when stuff's going on out there. And we wanna make sure that, just like you wanna make sure everything's great, we wanna make sure everything's gonna be is
Perfect.
like I said last meeting, every I dotted, every T crossed.
Mhm.
Because, you know, and you know, not everyone in town, you know, a lot of people were not exactly happy, right? Some people wanted this to be, you know, just go to, you know, conservation land or something like that. So, you know who gets those complaints?
Mm.
We do, conservation does. So, like I said, every I dotted, every T crossed, so there's no, you know what I mean? We're completely thorough, that's all.
And if you, I mean, obviously, we need a certificate of compliance from you anyhow. And some of these things you can actually, if we're not 100% done on this, figuring out exactly what you want, put it as a condition of getting the certificate of compliance. So
Yeah.
we get the variance now and the ability to
Cool.
construct. Well, we don't even have to construct it, but yes, but we have basically a sewage disposal permit. We can then go. We still have to go back to DEP and get the piloting and everything else which we have to get
Okay.
that stuff. But that way we've got this. We've got a permit. They can get going. They can get the building permit to get going, and then come up with the final O&M submitted prior to the certificate of compliance, because that's when it has to be. And that's when I get all my shop drawings and do all my stuff and put it, because my O&M manual ends up being really thick. But we got all that stuff in there and come up with if there's any minor modifications to the operations and talking with the operator and going through this. Nice thing about this one is we're looking at it as though it's a brand new system, but the operator's been operating it for 4 years, and he knows all the ins and outs of this thing. And we've done modifications to it, and it got it so it's working really well. It's not a brand new one. We're not gonna have all of those little gremlins that you do first time you build a new one and say, why did I put that pipe there? Like we did the first time with this.
Right. Okay, do you have anything else to add on the conversation where you've been dealing with everybody for the past couple weeks? It's just basically, I think the bond was the big thing, and then still, now we have we'll have to read through the Taunton and see if,
We just got it, we haven't
Mhm.
really, but
Yeah, there's only one
Right.
section that
right,
is anything other than notice and things like that.
just one other thing, if an agreement is made with New Bedford.
Oh, I'll get it to you.
Yeah, please get
Yeah.
us to that as soon as possible, so we can
Mhm.
have more time to look at it prior to the next.
Knowing how they have proceeded over the last 9 months, though, I call them every day,
Okay.
but I still don't see any response.
okay.
And, you know.
And again, I
it's-
mean, you're pretty much, like you said, you're held up anyway until you get that
Yeah, but
Mhm.
we need your permit.
to go
move
forward with piloting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, so you could make that a condition in
Right.
your permit that we have to get the final settlement agreement into you.
Okay. And I believe we only have one more meeting anyway before our deadline of
Right.
the April 1st. so the next meeting is the drop dead,
Yeah.
the only one we have left anyway.
I hope we
Without-
can finish it up.
Right. We talked to Martinich, he can give us everything we need if we give him the okay to go tomorrow. Cause again, we haven't had any deposit or anything for putting Martinich on
Mm-hmm.
from, so we've,
What kind of check do you need tomorrow?
Well, we gave 5,000 for Nick.
that was for Nick for what he's done up to that point. So now Nick said, you need to hire somebody else that does treatment systems. So then we went and got an estimate from who Nick referred us to, what he needs to do the treatment system now. And
On
then
an
he,
annual basis.
he's
Well,
gonna,
no.
He's gonna do some review up front to help write the permit, and come up with, look at the treatment plant, the plans and everything else, come up with any recommendations. He and I talked about a couple of recommendations that he wanted.
right, he sent some over, so
Yeah.
I don't know whether you're going back and forth with him.
We talked about him. I think I got him to agree that
So
he
what-
wanted a
So
pump.
let's just, what's that fee?
Was it in that first, the review of the ACO, we put down $2,000 an estimate to write, all our conditions and get everything out of DEP and put it onto us and make
Right.
sure we have everything
Okay.
that we need, including the bond,
Mhm.
and all the conditions for the meeting and say, this looks good.
Well, the
As a
bond-
treatment, cause Nick didn't tell us, and we know it was approved by DEP,
Right.
but Nick didn't go, he said, this is out of my,
Mhm.
scope. You need to have somebody that, they run treatment systems to say, we're good. So that's what we're,
So what is in Nick's scope?
Yeah, we used
I'm
up.
curious. So that's
Title
fine.
V.
Yeah. So how much
So what
is
do we
Don
get for
looking
the
for?
5,000? What was that for? If
He
it's
was
not
re-
reviewing the septic system, which is the whole reason we're here with the Board of Health.
I think that was to date, right?
That was reviewing
That was
everything up
up
to
to
date.
date.
He went to the DEP with us. He's
Yeah.
been to meetings with us. We send everything out to him, cause again, this is, anything over 2,000 gallons, we send out,
Right.
and have Nick, and that's his cost for reviewing and calls back and forth with us constantly, asking questions.
Right, so he went through the whole $5,000, is what you're saying, there's nothing left in that?
We can
Usually we
double
give you a
check.
check and
It
then
was,
pay.
that was for both, planning and
Right, he did
us.
planning
It was
too.
planning.
So
He
it was
did-
one
did
general
drainage.
budget.
I think
So
he did
he's only-
drainage too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
he submits bills for everything he's done, so
Yeah,
you'll
that's what I
have a
mean.
bill.
Yeah.
So I don't know
I'm
what
not
he's
looking to have
done.
any
It'll
burden on
probably
the
be
town.
itemized
Right.
at some point.
What
Just so we're
is-
clear.
What
Right.
is Martinez?
2,000.
2,000?
2,000 and
Plus the meeting.
they
So
wanna come to
35.
the next meeting on the 18th, to have any discussion, cause, it's even out of our scope. I mean,
Mhm.
this is the first treatment system
Yep.
that's getting put under.
Okay, so 3,500, I think we talked about that being the number you needed up front at
Correct.
the last meeting.
So that's
So-
what we're
so
looking
if
for.
So
you-
Brenda needs to send a check
Well,
over.
Brenda's away, but
Right.
I'll have the bookkeeper, the CFO. I can have a check run over here tomorrow, so if you could give him the green light, I'll make sure you have the check.
And then we can have it for the next meeting. He'll
So
be
just
at
so
the
you
next
know,
meeting.
I'll
Our
have that
town
delivered,
council will
so
be here at
just-
the next meeting.
Let's,
Hopefully we have the agreement. He
do you
said
want
he
that
can
check made
have,
out to the town of Lakeville or to him?
Edward, I don't know, is there a budget?
So I know
I
what I'm
don't
doing.
know.
Come to you guys.
We
What?
can let you know in the morning.
Okay.
I don't know how it works.
Yeah. Do it
Whether
the
it-
same way as you did the.
I don't
planning
remember how
board.
we did it.
Okay.
So if
Don't let Brenda go on vacation.
You know, she's gone for 2 weeks as her father got shot in a hunting accident.
Don't go hunting with Don Cheney.
Yeah. So would you like that, so somebody will call us or?
yes,
or-
we will
okay.
deal with this in
So
the
I'll give you my
morning.
cell number, would that be
And-
okay? And then you just reach out to me, it's 508
So
328 297.
The first year total, once he's done writing, I believe was 7,500, which included that 3,500. That was that first year
Yeah.
total.
Yeah,
So
3,500, but
Right.
the other ones.
Well, do you
like
need all that now,
we-
or do you
we
just need the
started,
review
no.
for now?
uh,
And we can give the rest when we get the first occupancy.
well,
permit.
yeah, if you don't give us the permit. you're
the
not
other
gonna
one
spend
was for the
other 400.
startup. So the first one was for the 2,000 for the ACO, the agreement, attend the meeting, and then he had come in for the inspection at startup. I believe was
Yeah,
another.
It would be 3,500 for the initial.
Right, for the
and then
first phase.
To get the
4,000
permit.
at-
Mhm.
at when they got the certificate of occupancy.
Right.
So they
Okay.
come there.
So that's
So we'll get you a check for 3,500.
Yep.
And at the next meeting, we'll confirm his contract on what it's for, and we buy into it for the other four.
and then we can
And-
get
and-
comments.
And then the other thing I'd like to know is that when, just have it written down in the permit somewhere or whatever, that when, prior to the first occupancy permit, I need to post this or that, you know, with his fee or whatever it is, so I know I have a
Okay.
kind of a roadmap,
Yeah,
a fee, so I don't miss any.
and then if we agree on the bond, whatever,
Right.
goes
Yeah.
back and forth with that, so that's
Yep.
done. He did say, I know we talked about jacuzzi tubs. He wanted to make sure, do a walkthrough, no garbage grinders, or jacuzzi
There's no
tubs
garbage
allowed
grinders, there's no
prior
jacuzzi
to
tubs.
inspection,
Mhm.
occupancy permits.
That'll be in the condo documents.
But
too.
there are
So that
these.
was addressed.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
designed all that, so
Right,
it's.
so he was just making sure, that was one of his
Sure,
comments.
there's no problem.
Garbage is-
No garbage disposal.
And you don't want them in any septic system.
Uh-huh. They do.
He wanted to adopt a frequency of the sampling per DEP's December 9th, 2013 approval. So they wanna. Again, once he gets on board and
And there was prior.
reviews it, we'll have all this, hopefully you guys, we wanted to get this to you ahead of the meeting too, so everybody can go back and forth
Yep.
Yeah.
before 2 weeks from tonight,
Yeah,
and we all agree, so it's,
Mm-hmm.
we've agreed on the bond prior to, we've agreed on everything that's in there, so it's,
It's
there,
best that you just
there
have
shouldn't
to
have
read
to
the
be a lot of
decision, right.
correct, and, our town council's actually gonna prepare something for
Okay.
us to
Could
actually
you follow
approve,
up with town
make a
council?
motion to either,
Is it okay if we follow up with town council too, just to make sure that everything's in there or not?
Make sure if he's missing anything.
I,
Is that appropriate or not?
I don't
I
know
know
that
Amy,
one, I,
Amy from the other side, she.
we
I
can
talk to her
ask,
all the time.
tomorrow.
The
I
only
don't
reason-
know, I don't know if we have the authority to have you call our council, I don't know.
I just wanna make sure we have everything so there's no surprises, that's all.
That's what,
It's not to,
correct.
it's
And
not to
I'm just
lobby
saying-
him in one
Yep.
way or another,
No,
it's
that's why
just
we
to
wanna
make
get
sure that.
everything done ahead of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah,
And
we're
not
not looking
get
to-
stuff the night of the meeting or the day of the
Right.
meeting, I'm getting
Right.
these emails
Right.
from
It's a
Nick
lot.
today, I'm getting
And
yours
I was
today,
expecting you to hand me Martinez's contract today, 'cause last couple
right, and we're
times you
still
hand
going
me-
back and
you get
forth
'em.
with them.
I know.
As of today, well, like,
Yeah.
Right.
we don't
I-
wanna be excessive, and we would just like,
I
Yeah, no, we
agree.
appreciate it.
But we don't want
The-
it, we want it, the next meeting, I'd like it to be clean where you have everything, you know,
Right.
and it's, there's like a,
and we're
almost
gonna
like.
be at our deadline at the next meeting.
Right.
I know, but you have a list, you know, here are the documents and here it is, and, you know, the town council's waited.
Yeah,
You
I
know-
obviously wanna get this done as quickly as possible also, but, the deadline is April 1st.
April 1st, so at the next meeting.
So the next meeting is the 18th, your following meeting happens to be April 1st.
Okay, I didn't know it was on the 1st, so that would be the Wednesday, so.
Well, we
I
wanna
would
recognize
rather we get this all
Okay.
next week, because
Right.
you're tired of seeing me.
Yeah, the first is my anniversary.
so- Yeah, I would just assume we have everything.
Whose idea was that?
Second married to a
Well, we
woman.
worked hard on this,
Yeah,
and
we're
I
trying to
feel,
get everything-
and I
met
feel we're
with
being a little bit of a
DP,
burden
answered
here, so I
everybody's
don't wanna be a
questions.
burden.
Mm-hmm.
So
So the
I-
biggest thing now is just getting the paperwork.
Right,
Yes.
And,
so we have our marching orders.
we did
Yeah.
talk to town council today, and he was adamant that we need to have that done. He
Well, we
said-
prefer that it's all
Yeah, you just
clean.
can't go subject to.
Nope.
He goes, no, you really need
Mhm.
everything done properly and
Yep.
agreed upon. Obviously, if the state piloting approval is gonna be whatever they say. And I will have to wait for 2 weeks to see if New Bedford does have something in writing by then and make a determination that night. If they still don't, maybe we'll have to do something contingent upon, obviously it's gonna have to be contingent upon
Mm-hmm.
theirs,
Well,
but,
we can't move forward because we don't have
You
our
can't,
special
right.
permit.
but I hope we have something from it, cause
Oh, believe me.
I
You know,
really
you know,
don't
the
really
real
wanna
irony is of the whole thing
approve
is,
something while it's still in litigation,
Right.
when they approve
Well,
it
it's-
to ZBA. For us to approve another one, it
there's
doesn't make
really
sense.
a question whether, we're working with them, but there's really a question whether they even have standing. You
Right,
know,
I've heard the
to be
argument on
candid
that
with
too,
you.
so,
But we're not
but
going
it's
that route.
illegal, right.
We're
We're
going,
just trying to
Yeah,
make
We're going the
everybody
good
trying to
neighbor
be
route.
cooperative and work with them. and-
work with them and.
I
know
like
what
being
issues
the
they
good
might
neighbor,
have.
that's what I prefer, it's
Right.
just easier, everybody go right around and, you know.
Right, and we'd like to see what they wanted, just so it's all addressed and we don't miss anything.
That's why I was saying to you that Taunton was out there at the same time and they all were, had the same laundry list.
All right.
I
So
don't know.
check for tomorrow for 35, we'll
Yeah.
get them on
Well,
board.
your gentleman's gonna call me.
Yep.
And
Yes.
tell me
Wh-
who to
where
make
to
it
make
out
it,
to,
whether we
and
make
I'll
it
do
to.
it, and I'll have it,
Town.
Town of Lakeville?
town of Lakeville, okay,
Okay.
and then I'll have it delivered.
Okay,
It may not be me, I'll bring it to the secretary, is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And that addresses everything I had. Do you have any other comments as we go
No, when you
to the next
mentioned,
meeting?
when you started going through this, I remembered this part about the concentration monitoring, the levels. Collecting samples before the systems started up in the monitoring wells.
That's fine.
Yeah, this is from Nick's.
Yep,
letter.
we could certainly
Yeah.
do background.
Nick
Just
sent
so we
us
have-
something today
so we have,
just
like,
stating if we were
baseline
going
stuff.
forward.
Yeah.
To
That's-
compare to.
that's fine.
I
Well,
yeah.
the system's been sitting there for a while now.
Well, we have to put in a couple of monitoring wells
Yeah.
anyhow, so
That's
that would
fine.
be absolutely fine. So, actually, once we put those in, we gotta sample them, or we typically would, and we'll sample the other two.
And we'll agree on the bond prior to, and then the yearly cost of, we're looking at like $2,000 of an annually town fee to having this company inspect, and then we'd have to review the quarterly reports ourselves, and
That's Martinage, right?
Yeah, Martinez will
Is-
review,
Is
Yeah.
your advocate?
yes.
Okay.
It's just, and they wanna actually do it yearly. They actually proposed monthly to us.
So on the bond
And
discussion,
we
do we
were like-
discuss that with
Yeah.
Martinage and
It
Nick,
doesn't make sense.
or what do we do?
if, and,
Yes.
On the bond, kinda
Yeah,
work it
well,
out
I
with
mean,
them.
if you wanna go through both of them, on
On the bond,
the bond.
so we'll talk to
Mhm.
Nick
Probably
and
ask
also
Greg.
Martinage.
I mean, if you wanna come back to us and tell us what, you know,
That
they
takes
sent
multiple
100,000
days.
yeah,
as what they sent us today. They feel is what this should be.
On,
So if you wanna come back and,
I don't know if Greg have any feedback on what
he
he's seen
did,
out
we
there.
specifically asked him today in our conversation with him, and he doesn't know
And-
about numbers and bond. He goes, that's as far as,
This,
it's
I didn't know if
outside of
he's seen it with septic stuff that he's reviewed in
Right.
the past. What
so that he
Other
goes, they
towns
would
or
have
other
to say what
things that
they
come up
felt
with.
was enough on a system of this caliber to have in a backup in case anything ever did happen and
Okay.
they had to get to it.
I want you to be comfortable.
Right.
And
And hopefully nothing will ever happen, you never have to touch the bond, I mean, but it just should be there. On a $1 million system, this isn't a $30,000, backyard septic.
Right.
It's $1 million septic system that can be very costly if you
Mhm.
start getting bad test wells, that the tank's leaking, the monitoring wells start picking something up and they gotta replace one of the tunnel tanks, so God forbid any, that ever happens, but
Okay.
it would be very costly.
Well, just so you know, before the bond was ever drawn on, if we end up going that way, right? I mean, you're gonna have the homeowners association has to react to it.
Correct.
And they would use self-help through the management company and call in Kevin and Whitewater and probably Robert B. Hour or whatever it is to replace, using your scenario, a broken pipe or something like that.
Right.
They would do that, your health inspector would inspect that, and maybe this engineer would, obviously weigh in on it, and then, but they would use their funding, their money
Correct,
that they have. You wouldn't have to go to the bond unless it's
No.
DEFCON 5 and everybody's just ignoring you.
correct. That's
Mm-hmm.
the whole,
That's kind of how I see it.
right.
Okay.
And we'll make we'll make that notes in the
Right.
documents.
And he also put in here, just under the leak testing of the tanks, but he wants to make sure the tanks are leak tested. We talked about that at DEP.
Yep.
So that's just redundant, but it'll just be in there.
It-
And-
It needs to be in the permit, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't see anything new under his comments besides that. Like you said, they were looking for some different stuff, implement recommendations, but you talked to him on that as far as he put flow equalization tank, carbon source, denitrification to improve the level of treatment.
We've got it's got denitrification,
Right.
and once I talked with Don about the fact, all the recycle we've got and everything else, we had made, when we designed it, we thought about carbon addition. And it's like, there's enough out there because of the size of the tanks and how we're doing it that it wasn't necessary.
Right.
The flow equalization, there are pros and cons to it. And it can always be added later, and that's what Don and I talked about, is if the plant doesn't get up and run, we can add pumps to it. It's essentially taking second septic tank and adding pumps. I like it the way it is because you have that extra denitrification capacity because the tank's full. Because of the size of the tanks, they almost act like flow equalization tanks. You get a surge of flow into the first tank, it raises the water level a little bit, which causes it to trickle out of that one into the second tank. And then it trickles out to the system. So the flow doesn't, it's not like you get 1,000 gallons in a minute and it goes right through the plant. It takes a long time for that to go through. And then you got the flow for most of the day, and we've got recycle. We're typically recycling about 100% of the design flow, constantly pumping it back, or pumping it in cycles. So it's not like it's just sitting there for 12 hours without flow
Okay.
and getting it all at once. So that's how we had designed it, that's how we wanted to design it. And I think that's the best way to do this. But Don and I will talk some more about flow equalization.
Yeah, and
putting it
address
on.
that prior to the next meeting as far
Yep.
as long as you're both in agreement, like I
Yep.
said, it's his expertise, so we're just going under what they're
Yep,
telling us.
and yeah, and he and I
It's
mean,
not,
he and I basically disagree a little on that, but we will talk some more, because he agreed that, yeah, if it works, keep it simple and keep it working the way it is. But we have to get it up and running.
And I know one thing that everybody can agree on, including DEP, is that this system is vastly superior for treatment of the waste than
than a Title
traditional
V,
system.
correct. Yes,
I
and that was
think-
one of the things
And I think for
you
the
addressed
public's
to
knowledge,
us.
they need to know that in this sensitive area, they're getting a super
it's a
level
full
of
treatment.
treatment.
You're 20 feet to water
right,
table.
Right, and, you know, so I think, yeah, we're going through a lot of minutia and it looks very complicated. It's actually, the big benefactor here is the environment. It's getting a lot better treatment.
Yeah, it
I
was
just
one of
think
the
it's important we
requirements
note- I think it's
we
important we
needed
note
for the
that.
variance to make
Yep.
sure
Right.
it was.
Right, I think, you know, DEP's in agreement with that, I think
You're
you
right.
folks would be, I think your
Yeah, after the
consultants
meeting
would
of
be.
DEP, everybody kind of was in
Yeah, so I mean, I
agreement
think that's
that
important for
it
the
met that
public to know that.
criteria, and now it met the manifest, and Jess, we needed that
Mhm.
criteria.
It is a lot more work, but, you know, in the end, it's a lot better product.
And it's a lot more costly to run
Yes.
and maintain.
But I just think it's a lot better for the public
And-
in the environment.
And under the homeowners association, I mean, obviously they'll be aware of the cost of,
Oh, yeah.
they have $1 million on-site septic system treatment plant that
Yeah.
They
Well,
will be aware, and it will be built into their condo fees.
be
course.
upfront prior
Upfront,
to.
yeah, the operation of the water and the wastewater.
Well, the whole,
So
the
they-
And all
whole
of the other community,
accoutrements are
Yeah.
all part of it.
Wow.
And there's a schedule, and they know what that is, and some is reserved, some is monthly operations, and they pay into it, and the developer pays, you know, the fees as you go along. What triggers the fees going in is when you bring these units into the condominium. Then the condo fees apply whether the unit's occupied or not. So you have to start paying. So there's a whole cycle to this, you know, when it goes on. But I don't think you're gonna see that. I think the caliber of people that are gonna be buying here are gonna be very happy with the quality of the unit, and I don't think they're gonna worry about a few bucks one way or the other, you know, as far as
The
reserves.
association fee.
Yeah, association fee.
Okay. Anything else you see before the next meeting that we need to discuss? We get all this worked out?
No, I don't have anything extra.
Edward,
Yes.
good? Everybody's,
I appreciate
with
your
your
time.
Great, we'll see you on the
permission,
18th.
I'll make a motion to continue to the 18th.
Yep.
And hopefully we'll have everything addressed. So we'll have Martinage reach right out to you.
yes, please,
Right, as soon as possible,
yes.
once we get them on tomorrow, and get everything worked out.
Yeah, we're gonna give,
and
I'll be
agree
here
on the
with a check
bond.
tomorrow. I mean, we're not gonna waste any time.
No, we just get everything,
Yes.
and we should be
Mhm.
good for the next meeting.
Anytime anybody's ever asked anything of us, we've been right there. I mean,
Okay.
everybody will tell you in town. You know, I've been-
It looks like we addressed everything, so
Good.
Thanks.
I make a motion to continue this to the March 18th meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's nice to make your acquaintance.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Okay.
Thank you.
Nice to meet
Thank you very
And
much.
now I'm not gonna shake hands.
you. I know, I was,
I can
they,
vote.
they've told us
I
not
got
to,
young
so.
kids, I got small kids, I'm
They,
worried.
they
you know.
specifically said,
Actually, they're
No.
saying kids
so.
there's some weird thing. Kids are actually more resilient than
Really? I have a 27.
they're carrying them. They're some of them may be carriers, but they're not getting sick. It's the elderly that.
It seems like the people who already have issues.
if you're already
Underlying
sick
issue.
and
underlying issues.
elderly.
That's what
Mhm.
I've noticed. You know that nursing home where they get a lot of deaths? It seems like those people are already, you know, were very sick to begin
They were
with.
frail
or,
to begin
yeah,
with, yeah.
Frail is a better word, yeah. Thank you, good night.
Thank you
Good
very
night.
much.
Nice
Thank
to
you.
meet you, sir. Okay, and I'll have that delivered tomorrow.
All right, thanks.
Okay, thanks.
That is, under old business, discuss recent Board of Health agent pending items. Did you come up with anything this week? I don't have anything. You have anything under pending items? I think that was, we just had carried that when we did not have an agent.
Oh,
That's
So-
why it was still in there, just
The
so
only
we
thing
could
was,
discuss anything that wasn't on the agenda.
so, actually, it really doesn't necessarily mean go along with what they were, but the change of use thing, did we have a meeting where there was minutes that we changed that?
Yes,
Yeah, there was a
yes, did
meeting.
you get, I
Right,
don't know if you
Lori
got
sent me
sent
the
that.
email that, yeah,
Okay.
oh, we don't have to have it, I was just
Yeah,
curious, like,
there was a
we
vote.
did fine,
Yeah, a decision was made.
it was a vote,
The
alright.
decision was made after, when we realized that we would've had to do 200 public hearings for everybody down there, for every, it didn't make any sense.
We just didn't change it online yet,
So
okay,
it was voted at a meeting
okay.
to just, and then we sent Stan Tech the next day, telling them we
So
don't need
we
a
just
public.
need to change the
So
online,
is the,
online
that
regs.
done? The
Sorry.
change of use, is that already, that check been given to us and filled out, so we're done with the change of use
Correct.
for Island Terrace? So that's 100% done. Cause we had to pass Title V was with the requirement. Okay. So that was
Okay.
clarified.
And I think that was. The emergency management thing that's on the 17th, The-
Yes.
the meeting at
Do you know anything about that one yet, Ed?
Venus de
Yeah,
we
Milo's.
do.
it's in Swansea, it's an emergency management.
And we're supposed to
meeting.
be there, correct? They want
They
to
want
know who's
everybody.
going?
Yeah, for infectious disease, I'm going, quite a few people are going, so, I mean,
Do we have to let them know ahead of time, or they're
Yeah,
just
we
yeah,
have to
expecting us?
you
register.
have to register.
Okay.
Okay.
I can send you the link to register.
It's probably more pertinent with coronavirus stuff going
Yeah,
on.
well, we
right?
had to go
And that's
last
the
year
thing,
for
it's
the
an
setup
infectious
drill. They said they
disease.
want us there.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm gonna put in
Okay.
for it tomorrow.
yeah, no, you still have plenty of time to sign up, you just sign up and say you're going there.
Okay.
And, you know, so
Now with two of us, we don't need to post it as a meeting. It's not technically a meeting. We're not discussing anything
no, I
as
don't
far
think
as on the agenda,
Actually,
so it's
Is Bob? Well, all of us could be there, right? Because we all have jobs as far as
Bob. They
our
want
plan
everybody
goes.
to go, cause we're all part of the.
And it's not just us. It's actually it's a regional thing, right? There's
Yeah, you know, it will
It's what we
have-
had last year at Assawamsett. It replaces that. They're not
right.
doing
This is
on-site.
gonna be at a table, and you can
Yeah,
break
so,
into groups. And
You know, Lake will be one table, and there'll be like about a dozen other communities as well.
and that was that.
Like I said, I can send you the information.
Okay, yeah, and I'll sign up.
Then the other thing, the Greater New Bedford Collaborative of the opiate outreach and
Yeah, that we got part of.
right, like we haven't talked about that in a while since before Kevin left, and I don't know if you would.
Yeah, I don't even know if he even knows about that
I
yet.
don't know anything about it.
Alright, so we'll have to, I forgot all about that one too.
Yeah.
Lori, a friend, might know more about that.
And I wondered.
We're
I mean,
still involved in it, right?
I think Mike went to the last meeting.
Okay.
Right.
And they quarterly meetings?
It's either monthly or bi-monthly, right?
Yeah.
And I know Kevin was going to one, and then Mike and
We rotated between fire.
between the fire
department
chief, police chief,
and Board of Health.
Board of Health.
Okay.
They all make an appearance at these monthly meetings, and they've gotten grant funding. If it's federal, state, or a combination, and they've got as many communities to be part of it to do outreach in the schools and education and do different other things as far as awareness and just different things like that. So it was kind of
Yeah,
kind of
Kevin-
new in the last year.
Kevin had looked into it for us and signed us up, and we voted on it and agreed.
Okay.
And we were trying to get something at Aponequid on a presentation through it.
Okay,
And I
I
think
can
they did last year, as
check
far as
with
I
Lori.
know.
Like
you can
there'll
put
probably
me
be
in.
literature at some point. I mean, it's
So we're
literally
supposed to
the
attend
first year of it.
meetings,
Okay.
so
Yeah,
we'll,
as long as you get a schedule, I'll do
Yeah,
it.
and at one point, I think one of us would probably go. I wanted to go to one at least, just to just to be able to say I've been there and hear and meet everybody. But yeah, it was. We still hadn't. Kevin hadn't really had. There wasn't too much to get updates on. It was still
right.
in its infancy and growing, right,
Okay.
in the setup. So Other than that, that's all I can
Okay.
think of.
I make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.